Hello and welcome, Phil Richards, to the Business Advisory Show. How are you today?
G'day, John. Great to be here. Happy as always.
Fantastic. Phil, I'm going to jump right on into it and just ask you a series of questions, which we tend to start off with every one of our guests.
Sure.
The wonderful thing about the hat that you are wearing, which is not the hat that you are actually wearing, with the E logo on it there, is the multiple
It's entrepreneur, isn't it?
That's it, E for entrepreneur. It's the multiple hats that you wear when you come into these types of questions today in this interview, which I am very grateful for. The entrepreneur, the accountant, the investor, and of course the traditional business owner is locked in there as well as one of those profiles. So, what does business advisory mean to you, Phil? And you can take any angle you like on this.
Cool. Okay. So I guess if I put my accountant's hat on, because that's really who we're talking to here, if I look at it from the point of view of being a business owner, there's very few accountants out there that really do true business advisory that the business owner really, really wants. So the definition of business advisory from an accountant's point of view, I would probably tend to suggest doesn't always have a great product market fit with the business owner. So, the business owner is wanting sales and marketing help. They're wanting help with their team. They're wanting strategies around exit, business growth stuff, all of that. And unfortunately, our accountants, of which I am one, we're never really taught that stuff. We're only just taught to do all the compliance stuff. And that really leads into the person that I'm trying to help accountants become, which is what I call an entrepreneurial accountant. So the entrepreneurial accountant is the accountant that can actually help the business owner with the compliance stuff, but actually help them grow their business. And I really mean grow it. I don't mean the sort of the cursory glance that we talk about business growth. I mean talking about 10x or even 100 times their business growth. So talking about sales and marketing, talking about team, how to grow your team, how to get your team to so that you can let go, so that you can grow your business and empower your team. I think that's a really big thing. And also all the exit stuff as well, because most accountants really are not strong even just in exit strategies. They really just advise the business owner to go to a broker and the broker will take care of the rest. And by the way, here's a set of accounts that you'll need. That's sort of about it, right? So business advisory to me means a lot more than what it means to most accountants, I would say.
Yeah, good, excellent points that you make, and is it reasonable to say that if the accountants themselves has really had no vested interest in or endeavour consistently over time in their own succession plan, for example, then they're really, they don't have a lot of confidence around the topic itself. So hence it's, you just sell the business,
Sure, yeah. I mean, unless they specialize in selling businesses, but, that whole process of selling a business starts at least 2 years out, depending where the business is at. If it's already being prepared for sale, then there won't be so much that needs to be done. But, look, I think there's just, exit is a fantastic occurrence in a business owner's life. A lot of people think of an exit being the time that they quit, they quit the business, but actually the whole idea of actually building or buying businesses, growing them and selling them is actually such a super exciting sort of thesis for business owners, where they can actually do this multiple times across their career. The exit can be just so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a tricky one for you to answer. I can't wait to see where you go with this one. Question number 2 is, in fact, what does your company do and how does this help business advisors?
So what I'm personally trying to do is help accountants, so the traditional accountant, become more cool, hip and funky, and help them to become an entrepreneurial accountant. So that's what I'm calling myself. I'm calling myself the entrepreneurial accountant, the accountant who went from working in a Big 4 firm and said, I'm out of here and went off and became a business owner and an entrepreneur. And so I'm trying to help accountants, whether accountants actually want to make that journey themselves and actually leave the profession and be a business owner. I'm helping accountants map that out for themselves, or I'm helping accountants just help their clients and other business owners. And to do that, they need to think differently, right? So I'm helping accountants that are traditional, helping them to think like an entrepreneurial accountant and help them to think the way that their clients want them to think, which is that stuff I talked about at the start, right? Which is the business growth, the sales, the marketing, the team, the exit stuff. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm writing a book. And as you know, John, I've been writing this goddamn book for a lot of years. Nobody ever tells you that writing a book is bloody hard work, but we're almost there, and I'm excited to release it and actually help accountants, encourage accountants to think differently and to think in a 21st century way that our clients, I think, are really, really going to enjoy, want, and just lap up. And for accountants, you should be able to make more money with this new way of thinking. So it's exciting. I think it's good for everyone. It's good for our clients, and it'll be good and exciting for the accountants as well.
What has been your most valuable lesson as a business owner?
I think the biggest reason that I quit accounting was that I was sick of doing the time trade for money. And I used to sit in, I was working at Arthur Andersen at the time, which was a big accounting firm. And I used to see the partners missing their kids' birthday parties, and their partners their wives or husbands would be on the phone going, when are you going to be home? And they never actually knew the answer, right? So the biggest lesson for me being a business owner is that once I got my business to a point where it was successful and I could employ people to do the work that I was doing, I got all of my time freedom back. And so that meant for me, I wanted to be a really good dad and a good husband and be there for my wife when we had children and started a family, that I could do that. And still to this day, when I go to the school sports days or prize givings or cross country or whatever it might be, there's only a certain few parents that are there every single time. And I can guarantee you all of those people are probably business owners or maybe unemployed, who knows, but they're business people. You know, they're not the doctors and the lawyers and the surgeons. They're not the people that are stuck in that rut where they have to turn up to work to make money. And that for me was the biggest lesson, is getting that freedom back from being a business owner.
Yeah, that's a great comment and an observation. You know, I think back, you've actually just reminded me, until about 18 months, 2 years ago, I was one of only 3 dads that attended all the sports carnivals at primary school and so forth. And it was only the failing of my marriage, the breakdown of that I stopped going because we didn't want to stand together. but it's incredible that you knew who was going to be there. It was the same dads. They're self-employed. They own businesses, and they can make that moment a priority.
Yeah. It's all I do it for, honestly, John. When you think about it, it's my kids that are the only reason that I do all the stuff that I do. And I think it's really nice that we acknowledge that people always ask, why do you do it? And it's to prove to our kids that we're good people, so.
Yeah, that's great. And it's a great role model for forging a blueprint for their mindset, and they're preparing them for life as well and their journey, right?
Yeah. Well, look, I want to talk more about this when I come and do Accountants Big Day Out, but I'm a really big fan right now. My kids are 15 and 13. They're a really impressionable age. They're teenagers. And they're smart enough now to get a lot of these concepts that we talk about. And so I'm teaching my children all about the stuff that we're going to talk about at the seminar. But it's great to be able to teach the kids because they're starting to get the fact that they don't want to be a doctor now. They don't want to be a surgeon. They might be smart enough to do it, but they just don't want to do it because, they say to me, their friends, their dad might be like a surgeon or whatever. And they'll say, he's way smarter than you, Dad. But he never comes to the sports carnival. He's never at school. and you make more money than he does. How does that compute? Like, how does that work? And so I have to say to them, you know, like, well, he's doing amazing work, but all he can do at one point is just look after one single person. And he's much, much smarter than me and much brainier than me. And he's probably going to save that person's life. But all he can do is just work on one person at one time. Whereas my software company, for example, like our payroll company, you know, this week it will help 20,000 business owners to pay 200,000 people, so they don't have to deal with the ATO and they don't have to deal with their super fund, and all of the money goes in the right amount to the right place at the right time. And so that is why I make more money, because I can help more people in this moment than the surgeon can, even though the surgeon is doing the most valuable work on the planet of saving a life. Right now, Dad, your father, is actually doing some good work too, and maybe a bit smarter than what you actually think.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, well, in terms of your own leadership style, your own personal style and approach to business, how would you describe your own leadership style?
Cool. Well, I'm pretty casual. You can see I've got a sweatshirt on. I'm not about the big stick sort of approach with lots of structures and hierarchies. I've always been a big believer in trusting the people around me. So hiring well, and to hire well, you always need a really strong vision. You need to be able to get those people enrolled in the vision and paint the picture of the future so that they want to be part of your company. And then what I do is I just let go to grow. So I just let them do their thing, and I watch and I manage and I coach and I encourage, and that is my style. It's a really relaxed style. When I employ people, I say, don't expect to see me in the office, because I want to go and ride my bike. I want to go and do other stuff, right? So I always have a general manager or a CEO in place, and that way I don't have to be there, and the business grows without me, and that allows me to do multiple things at once. Because people always ask me, how do you do so much at once? Well, the truth is I'm actually not doing much at any point in time, but I'm thinking about a lot of stuff and coaching a lot of people to do things all at once. So that's my style, John.
Yeah, thank you. Well said. And I think that there's a lot of common sense, but not so commonly practiced.
Yes.
Is there? You know, in what you're saying. What do you enjoy the least, and what do you enjoy the most in terms of anything to do with business advisory?
Yeah, cool. So the least. The thing I really hate is when people want help, but they aren't prepared to do any work. And we've all got clients like this, right? That they say the words, but they never do any work. And so conversely, the thing I love is that the people just do everything that you say, like, you know, in the next 5 minutes. As soon as the phone is hung up or the email has been read, they're doing something. And in the next 24 hours, they're already contacting you saying, I've done it. It worked. It's great. I feel better. What's next? You know, just those model students that actually, and I'm sure in sport, in business, in life, and everything, the people that do what you suggest and it works are the most favorite clients that you could ever have. The feeling of, you know, a success, their happiness from your suggestions and recommendations is priceless.
Yeah, it's such a great example. And I've always found one of the most provocative questions you can ask a business owner, if from a business advisory standpoint, is to ask them, do you think that you are in fact coachable?
Yeah.
And not giving them any signals that you're going to take a bullshit answer for granted and tick a box and accept them as a client, you know, and really eyeballing them through that self-evaluation, right?
Yeah. You know, I've bought 16 accounting practices now, and all of the ones that have gone badly were people that were generally over 60 years of age and male. So not stereotyping anything here, right?
No, that's factual data that you're sharing with us, right?
Yes, it is. It is. I've got empirical evidence to prove this. So no offense. But, you know, these people just are really struggling to be coachable. And so I don't have anything to do when I'm going to buy a new accounting practice. I don't buy accounting practices and go into partnership with those types of people anymore.
Mm.
Now, there's always going to be exceptions, but I've definitely got my radar finely tuned in if the person is meeting the criteria of who I don't want to do business with.
Isn't that one of the great benefits of years of experience? Is that in the early stages you'll meet some of those prospects, you'll do an acquisition, you'll say, oh, I'll make it work. They're not a bad guy, they're not a bad person. We'll make it work. But in truth, years later, you say to yourself, oh, fuck that. I'm not going to do that anymore, because you can lead a horse to water, right?
Well, look, it's the old dog, new trick stuff, right? And I've got people that actually fit that criteria, that are being successful, but they are the exception, not the rule. So, but I love everybody. But I would prefer that they actually, if they want to make some change, that they'd actually take some action.
Yeah, and one of the things we often say this as a bit of a recruitment tip. So when our members are building their businesses in the early stages, it's not so much about equity participation that this relates, but it does. It's about recruitment. It says, if you hire somebody and they're not right for the job, you know what, you can care for them, you can befriend them. That's fine. You can even rent a caravan and put it in your backyard and offer it to them. You can give them your old clothing. You could feed them as well. And if you're really weird and sick and twisted, you could even sleep with them. But for God's sake, do not continue to employ them.
Yeah.
Because that's the big Achilles heel in small business.
Yeah, well, business is hard enough, right? Don't need to make it harder for yourself, especially when that's the definition of insanity, making the same mistakes multiple times, right?
Yeah, and how much more evident is that when you think about the businesses you've acquired, 16 of them, accounting firms, and how much more scalable are you and those businesses when you get that right, and they're people that can grow with you, right? Sure, as opposed to hold you back and hold themselves back.
Yeah. Well, look, we actually grew all of those practices and we sold them back to them eventually, because it wasn't a case of me not doing my bit and not growing the practice. It was just that I didn't enjoy it, because if it's a fight, then I'm not happy. So it doesn't become a money question anymore. It becomes a happiness question. So.
Yeah. And exactly. Life's too short. We've got to do, I say we've got to be having fun 80% of the time.
Yeah. We just call it the no dickheads policy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Cool.
And enjoy the most. Have we kind of indirectly?
Well, answered? So there's the people that actually do what I say and get the results, and get all the rewards, because that's the best part.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? Yeah. Well done. And if you had your time over again, the absolute test of transparency in a situation like this. If you did have your time over again, is there anything that you would have done differently?
The on-camera answer is that, of course, I say no. I'm totally happy with everything I've done in my life. But the honest truth is, and the answer is, of course, there's things I'd do differently. But I've also learned that a lot of the mistakes that I've made are the wonderful stories that I now have to share, right? So when I get on stage and I share with you all of my mistakes, the whole point of me sharing my mistakes with you and the audience is that so that they don't make the same mistakes. So if I never learned the lesson and then I could never share the lesson, then the lesson is still lost in the sort of the world of hard knocks, where everybody's got to go through the same shit. So look, I'm pretty happy with how things have gone. I would have maybe bet a bit bigger sometimes, but gosh, life's pretty good. And, this is really why the whole 5 F's that I'll talk about, this whole balance of friends and family and fun and fitness and finances and freedom just gives you such a great perspective on life, so that, shit's going to happen, right? So,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm pretty happy, John.
Well, I certainly know you reasonably well, Phil, and I know that you are. I think if we possibly subtly segue into this enormous event coming up in the first 2 weeks of July across Australia. One of the things I'm most excited about in you coming as one of the keynotes for that is, as we spoke about off camera prior to this particular interview, that you've probably got a big list, as I do certainly, around lessons learned from the imperfect journey, and that's everything, isn't it? That's friends, family, marriage, it's business, it's our mental health, it's everything. Without giving it away, you've got some pretty big things planned, and I want that to remain a surprise and a bit of a mystery. But what might you be willing to share right now in terms of a bit of a prelude to some of the things you may be talking about at Accountants Big Day Out 2019?
Well, we're definitely going to share how to become an entrepreneurial accountant. So how do we make the journey? How do we make the transition from being the accountant we are today to being a cooler, hipper, funkier, and more loved accountant? Because unfortunately, the truth is, when people are asked to put their hands up in the room if they're an accountant, we're just not confident. We're a bit ashamed of being an accountant because we know that it's always going to be followed by a joke, a disparaging joke that puts our profession down. So I want to try and make accountants cooler and hipper and funkier and more relevant, really, which is the true answer. And becoming this brand of being an entrepreneurial accountant. If you introduced yourself as an entrepreneurial accountant, people would go, wow, what is that? Tell me more. Rather than just saying, I'm an accountant, and then getting branded and tarred for the rest of the conversation and nobody wants to talk to you. So that's going to be a big part of it. I might bring a little secret guest along to some of them with me. A real new passion of mine. And what else are we going to do? I'm just going to share stories. You know me, John. We talk about butter chicken factories in India. We talk about pet food in the US. We talk about a lot of cool stories. But the big thing, I think, the big message is I want to try and help accountants take a little bit more risk in their life, right? Accountants, the biggest thing that holds accountants back is that they're super risk averse. And look, if we mitigate the risks and we figure out what could go wrong, 9 times out of 10, the stuff never happens, right? But if we can just tackle risk with a little bit more vigor, it can just transform the person that you are. And I'm really excited about talking about risk and some strategies around risk so that accountants can actually be a little less conservative and a little bit more risky. And I think if accountants can embrace this concept of risk, take a little bit more risk in their lives, they will get a lot more money, a lot more financial reward, and a lot more freedom for it. So that's what we're going to be talking about, John.
Fantastic. And isn't it ironic that people like yourself and you're very much aligned with, as you know, Richard Branson in the concept of protecting the downside. And isn't it amazing that the more entrepreneurial an accountant can become, the more, in fact, they mitigate risk because they do protect the downside and through that rigor and that drive and that tenacity to grow and evolve, and rather than hope that things are going to continue to always remain the same by doing the same things, which of course you're going to eventually run slow behind the market, aren't you? So because you're not evolving. So that's great insight. We're very excited to have you back with us again this year, Phil, and we've got you salubriously the last thing for the day before the grand prize is given out across Australia at each event of the extreme makeover for each one lucky benefactor in each region. And then, of course, champagne and cocktails immediately follow you. So it'll be a lovely day and across Australia. And thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll look forward to seeing you at Accountants Big Day Out in a few weeks' time.
Cool. Thanks, JP. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, mate.
See ya.